Should we move on to the next wine?
Yeah, let's move on to the next one. Yeah.
It's a rinse.
Yeah,
Yep.
so we're going to rinse with the 2006 Rastaban from Brooks. This is, what, estate fruit?
Estate,
Yeah.
100% estate. So this is, and we're currently on the 9 in the tasting room. We thought the 6 would be a good comparison to the
Right.
85. So
Yep, and this is always a wine that they hold back, right? Like definitely, in addition to estate fruit, usually a
Yes.
bigger style Pinot Noir. One of your top of the line wines.
yes, it's definitely our
The flagship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we only do 300 cases of it,
Okay.
and the Rastaban is half of the Old Vine Primard, which is up in this corner, and then half of the 777 little younger vines, which is a little way down in front of the house.
And do you remember when you started doing the Rastaban? Has that been going on for a long time,
Yes,
or is that a newer
Jimmy-
program?
Jim-
Oh, it was
Jimmy-
one of Jimmy's
yeah,
wines. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Where did the name Rastaban even come from? Where did it come from?
It's the eye in the constellation Draco the dragon.
Wow. Okay.
Jimmy came up with the name. So
Very cool. Nice
Yeah.
black label, right? Red dragon
Yeah.
on it. Definitely kind
Yeah.
of a striking bottle.
Very.
and 2006 was a warm vintage in Oregon. So
It was, yeah.
Jimmy still lives in the wine. Still.
It's really true. It's really
It's true.
Now keep in mind that these are vines too that are still on their own root. They're not grafted.
Really, I didn't know that, or maybe I had heard it, but it wasn't. That's really cool to hear.
As we sit here, that area out in front of us is all own root Old Vine Palmard, and then
That's awesome.
down at the far end is the Riesling, which is also on its own root, not grafted.
Awesome.
Now the new grapes that we put in, the 777, 115, those are all grafted on rootstock.
All right.
Kind of an insurance policy.
Oh, man. Talk about silky.
And I'll give
Really,
you this,
really nice, yeah.
Yeah. I'll give you the same question, Heather. Have you noticed a change in the wines as the vines have matured? Or I guess like your palate has kind of.
Yeah, I think it's all vintage and the
Grown-
weather.
all right,
Yeah, I've come to really, since we
Paranoid.
had the 7 and 10 and 11 cooler vintages, I'm kind of I'm liking the cooler vintage Pinots.
So am I. It's been a revelation. You know, starting out with like a touch of 05 and then 06 came around. I was like, yeah, fruit. It's delicious. And then and 8 was fantastic as well. And then 9 and I'm used to this. And then 10 and 11 happened. And I totally wrote them off. Like, it's gonna be light, not very interesting. And the wines have just been beautiful.
And they'll age really nicely.
I don't doubt that. Well, based on this, I mean, this is
Right.
12.5 alcohol and
Yeah.
light and delicate on the palate, and it's just.
Yeah.
How was the 85 on release? Do you remember?
Do you remember
Okay.
if it was a cooler, warm vintage?
Well, 85 was a warmer vintage, definitely.
Wow.
But we had a lot cooler vintages back then. 04 was very cool, and we made a lot of rosés and Pinot Noir Blanc.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
Was that a normal thing back then to press Pinot Noir to white wine?
Only in the cooler years.
Okay.
We didn't have enough grapes to
I didn't know
really
that.
make a lot of wine, so those were major decisions to make
Yeah.
Blanc.
Very.
And you didn't do rosé back then, Pinot Noir rosé.
Yeah,
It
we
was,
didn't do
white.
rosé. They were lighter colored, more of a bronzy color.
Right. Because it's sort of a trend that you see a little bit now. People pressing Pinot Noir to white wine and making like a designated Pinot Noir Blanc. But it's interesting.
Yeah.
People did it sort of out of necessity back then.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Now the Rastaban is the only Pinot that Brooks makes that's 100% of the estate fruit. So
Okay.
we do several different Pinots, but it's 50 retail in the tasting room, and we're on then 2009 right now.
And so a lot of people, or a lot of 2006s I've tasted in the last year or 2 years, are starting to show their age.
Yep.
A lot.
He
It's
beat me to
very
a punch
evident.
on this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
one's still very youthful.
Yep, very much intact. Really perfumey, both on the palate and on the nose. I'm getting like this lighter sense of aromatics. The vintage shows a little bit like there's a touch of dried fruit, I think, on the nose. A little bit of little bit of more tannins, I think, that settle into the palate on the back end. But the fruit still has a brightness to it. The silky texture, in a blind tasting, I would never guess it's 2006 based on that alone.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, the texture here is wonderful. The fruit, like Dan was saying, it's when the age starts to become evident, right? They get a little more stewed. They get a little pruny, a little whatever. This doesn't have any of that whatsoever. So
Still fresh.
still very fresh. So yeah, very good 06.
Yeah,
A very good
apples,
06.
cherries, strawberries, like.
Yeah.
And definitely these are built to age too,
Yes,
right? Like
yes.
this is kind of a collection wine.
Yes.
Could you tell us a story about, like, was there any point in your, because you grew up around this winery, right? It's been around pretty much your whole life. Was there a point as you started to taste other wines in the world that you're like, man, I really like the wines that come from here. Like they really, whatever the site tastes like or my connection to it, like when it was really striking to you? You.
Me.
Any stories? Like, yeah.
Well, I'm definitely, I started on the sweet wines, of course. And
So did I.
I've graduated up a little, and I think I'm a Pinot snob because really, Pinot's, I love how smooth it is, and
When it's good, it's so good.
Yes, and so I'm
yeah.
not used. I don't drink a whole lot of other red varieties, and
Sure.
when I do, I think they're a little bit too big for me. I think my palate's more of the smooth Pinot, but
Did you have a hard time, like, when you went off to college and your friends would be like, oh, I brought wine over, and you're like, oh, thanks.
well, at that time I still
You weren't so picky.
I was going so picky. Now,
Yeah.
no, but
Now, but do you remember when that happened? We were like, oh, no, like, leave it alone.
Yeah,
right?
when did you become a wine lover?
Yeah.
When did you become a wine lover?
well. We grew up on the wine, but I really, at that point, I wasn't too picky. But I would say when I got involved with Brooks, so kind
Okay.
of that whole Brooks transition, because then I was introduced to more, we were still drinking, my dad's old stuff out of the cellar, but I wasn't drinking a whole lot of...
You weren't exploring too much. Yeah.
No, and
Yeah.
I still sometimes at the winery and doing winery stuff so often, I don't get out and get a taste
Right.
the other stuff that much. So when I do have to do winery errands to other wineries, I definitely like to sit and try, and because I don't get out to taste the other ones that much.
And there's so much more variety now in the valley
Yeah.
too. You get to taste so much
Yes.
stuff. There's so many people experimenting with new things
Yes.
and new styles. It's
Yes.
so fun.
Yes.
We'll talk about, and like your tasting room right now, you just got done with your shift. It's been a really busy Saturday. What bottle of what you got for sale right now are you most excited to have a glass of?
Janus.
Nice.
The Janus Pinot.
Is the 10 the current one, or is the 11 out now?
We're at the 11.
We're at the 11
yes.
now. All right.
And that's the Janus is our flagship Pinot. Price point 35 retail, and it's usually about 80% estate. But then of course we source from the estate vineyard's only 20 acres, so we have to source from many other vineyards around the area. So, but it's a little earthier. So the Rastaban's the biggest Pinot that we do, and I think the Janus is a little bit lighter, earthy notes, and that's my
A little less
definitely go-to.
concentrated?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely my go-to Pinot.
Cool.
Yeah,
Nice.
or the
Yeah.
rosé, which we're sold out of right now, but that Chris is
Your
having
guys'
to.
rosé is
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, that's a
Chris-
really good rosé.
He's had to increase production on that each year because we do sell out of it.
Nice.
So that's I'll
Good
stop-
stuff.
yeah,
I love the
yeah.
10. I love the 10 especially. The 11 was good too, but the
Yeah.
10 was like a memorable rosé.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
Or experience. This, I've got to say, this is the best 06 I've had in any time recently.
Easily. Yeah.
This is in
Holding
great
together
shape
really
right now.
well.
So yeah, good pick. Thanks
Yeah,
for
yeah,
bringing this
yeah.
out. Well, I think
But the
Yeah.
the grapes are 40 years old. The vines.
Right. So
That
the
definitely-
the
that
wine they're gonna
definitely
make
helps,
is,
right?
yeah.
So does older vines make a better wine? That's a good question.
And they
too.
produce the clusters that they, the fruit is always beautiful. It's still
I think the potential's there. I've had great wines made from young vines. I got a big discussion about this with some of
Yeah.
our friends. Even.
Yeah.
Didn't you go to that tasting?
Yeah,
young
yeah,
vine
it
versus
was
old
big.
vine
It was
tasting?
kind of
I did it blind.
contentious
Yeah.
discussion with some
that's
people
it.
about
Oregon.
it. But
Yeah.
I think some
That's
people are
good.
doing great things with young grapes. Yeah, even some of the vineyards you work with, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you guys work with some
Yeah.
young vineyards now.
Yeah.
But I think the older ones have a particular story to tell, right?
Uh-huh.
And especially here where they're more rare, right? Like
Right.
the old vines here, the 40-year-old vines here, there's a pretty small number. So it's great to see what the wineries that are carrying those vines on are doing with it, and kind of the story of the site that they have to tell. Yeah, I'm going to pour the rinse of the first sweet Riesling, and yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about the site? Like when you came here years ago, why did you plant here, and a lot of those characteristics stay true today. So like, what's special about Brooks Estate?
Well, I my degree is in geography, so I know a lot about places and sites and the climate, and had a lot of classes dealing with climatology. And when I started looking, I knew about Dundee, as my friend Bill Blosser had already bought 20 acres there, and I wanted to buy 20 acres in
Yeah.
when
Golden.
it's hard to talk.
Oh yeah, sorry, I keep
Drinking gold. Yeah. Don't drink wine from a gold bottle. Drink a gold wine.
So I knew I was going to be moving to Salem, and I looked at the Eola Hills in Dundee, and for me, there wasn't a lot of difference between the two, climatologically speaking. And so I looked for a year here, and I found this site actually for sale. Actually, it was part of it was for sale, and then included another 10 acres adjacent to it, and I talked the farmer, who was a cherry farmer, into this 20 acres, which has a south-southeast slope to it. And what I like about it is that when the sun crests the Cascades in the morning, the rays of sun are on this vineyard, and they're on it the full day, and at the height of the temperature of the day is around 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and sometimes it gets above 90 degrees, and we feel it's not a lot of benefit for the grapes above 90 degrees. So at that time of day, we don't have the extreme heat that you would have like on the west side.
sure.
So I prefer that more even temperature through the day on the vines, and that's why I prefer the east side versus the west side. It has good slope to it, allows for good air drainage. We've never had a frost
Wow.
damage here, ever.
And you're pretty high up. Do you,
Yeah.
you know the elevation right now? Like,
It's 600
Okay.
at the bottom, and about 750 where we're sitting.
yeah, and that's over that much history, right? No frost damage.
Yeah.
That's
That's
pretty
amazing.
interesting. Yeah.
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 There's a lot of times the whole valley is, I'm sure I've posted Facebook pictures of
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
The
yeah,
whole
I love your
valley's
Facebook
fogged
post.
in.
Yeah.
And then we're always in the bright sunshine. I'll call my parents who are fogged in Kaiser.
Yeah, we're fogged in down there. But it's frost is a potential the closer you are to the valley, or if you have trees or hillsides that block the flow of air, because the colder air is settling down into the valley, and that's where it wants to be. And if it's moving, it's okay. It doesn't frost, but and that's what you want. Air drains during the evening, and if you got a good site like this, then you'll never have frost damage.
Very cool. So this is the 1988 dessert style Riesling.
The year I graduated from high school.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'll drink to that.
Yeah.
Cheers.
This is slightly oxidated. It's it was golden to start with, but it's starting to brown a little bit.
Did you make a dessert wine every year, or just when it was?
We did every
conditions?
year.
Every year, okay.
Yeah, and one thing about the climate here is that we don't get freezing temperatures during the fall. So
Right.
we can't really grow what's called ice vine,
Mm-hmm.
where it freezes, the grapes freeze on the vine, you pick them. So
Magical stuff.
There's different methods for imitating that, however. One is what we did here was to press the juice off, take some of the juice into town to a freezer, and
Mhm.
actually freeze the juice, and preserve that till it was time to bottle. And in the early days, you know, we didn't have refrigeration, so we would ferment the rest of the Riesling dry.
Sure.
And then we would, at bottling time, bring the frozen juice back and drain off. You'd have in a barrel, and you would have a big ice chunk in the middle of the barrel, and that flowed off was just a wonderful nectar of Riesling. Just the
I'll bet.
sweetness and the flavor and the acidity didn't freeze, and essentially took the water out of the wine. And we would add that back to the wine, a little bit to the dry, maybe 0.7% to 1%. And in the Reserve Riesling, we would make it 3%. And in this wine, this is about 12%.
Okay, yeah,
So
quite a step up.
quite a step up, and it is, we called it dessert wine because that's what it is. It's a wine to go with dessert, and you have to have it as sweet as the dessert, or else it falls flat.
Great complexity on the nose again. I'm getting like the cooked peach, maybe like even like a peach crisp, right? A little bit of the like
Yeah, I was gonna go
roasted
apple
oatmeal
crisp,
on
but
the
yes.
top, like
Yeah.
yeah,
A little bit of the cinnamon from that as
yeah,
well.
a little
like
bit of
the
vanilla
spice.
flavor, yeah,
Peaches too.
yeah.
Yeah. But man, tastes absolutely wonderful. Yeah, this is delicious. Really good.
And the sweetness, extra
man.
sweetness helps preserve it,
Oh yeah.
as our experience is with Sauternes.
I do love aged dessert wine. It just gets
Yeah.
so interesting and so fun, and this is a prime example of that.
You're still getting a little bit of acidity in
Plenty,
it, right?
yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
And it lingers long, right? The flavors linger. Never gets too heavy. Like there's definitely plenty of sweetness up front.
Yeah.
But it doesn't get too thick on the palate. A lot of, especially when you start going a little bit back in time. Like I've tasted very few wines of this age, but even like the early 2000s. Actually, even today, you get some of the sweeter Riesling. Some of them get kind of that like sugar added feel, or like more syrupy. It
Yeah.
doesn't taste so much like fruit sweetness. And I guess the method you're talking about really brings kind of that purity of flavor along with the sweetness that is still really evident in this wine. I would never guess it was as old as it is.
Totally.
Yeah.
Maintains the acidity. You have to have the acidity to balance the sweetness.
And I think this one does that well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in fantastic shape, and I think speaks really volumes about the aging potential of the the wines made from the fruit here.
Yeah, we finished our glasses fast.
Oh man,
you guys,
I'm running my mouth.
you guys are going so slow, Heather, and I'm sitting here like, come
Here,
on.
you can get your rinse going then.
All right, that sounds good.
So we slowly enjoy the rest of this. Man, I'm just really enjoying how the flavors stick around.
Heather and I will talk about this
Yeah,
one.
go
for
it.
All right, so this is the 2012 Tethys
Yes.
from Brooks.
Yes.
So this is your guys' dessert Riesling.
Yes,
currently.
we used to call it the late harvest, but now we've taken that off because we harvest the Riesling all at the same time, so we don't let it hang any longer than. But Chris he brings the grapes to a commercial freezer. So again,
So
you
still made
can't-
in that style? Yeah.
Again, you can't do you can't put ice wine on the label, but
Oh yeah, thank you. Try not to do what I did with the New
you already
Yorkers,
do?
right?
Yeah, my rinses. I did my rinses. You should pour a little more.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
oh, come on.
Yeah,
let's roll hard here. We're at the end of the show, so
yeah. It's
enjoy
This is
ourselves a
apple
little
pie,
bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, we started early today. Boy, it's a 10 a.m. start time, so it's
But what's the date? And look at the sunshine that we have. I mean, this is gorgeous. It's,
gorgeous.
No, it's
November
wonderful.
10th,
Yeah.
and it's gorgeous.
Couldn't be a better day
Right.
for doing
Yeah.
this. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
So another sort of simulated. So it made the same sort of style that you made the previous wine, the Hidden Springs.
Same, except instead of pressing the juice off and taking the juice in the freezer, they take the grapes in the totes
Okay.
and take them to the freezer.
And then they press the frozen
And then
grapes,
they press
right?
the frozen
Yeah.
grapes.
Okay.
It's a simulated ice vine.
Right.
Say just frozen grapes, same process. It's just different. It's not a natural freezing as in ice vine.
Right.
This is the 2000. And is this something Jimmy started too?
Yes.
Or okay.
Yes. And 13.8 on the RS.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. All the way sweet.
Yeah, and Tethys is the frozen moon as Saturn. So that's how he chose that.
Wow. All right.
Very cool.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool name.
Frozen moon.
A little bit of an astronomer. Yeah. Yep.
And we were-
Explained by the biodynamics. So yeah.
And we were just talking about how both of us got into wine, starting with sweeter stuff. Like this is
Oh, yeah.
consistently one of the best sweet wines coming out of Oregon.
And
And this sells out a lot,
Yes,
right? Like
yes.
this is one that
Yes.
a lot of times like, oh, I'll just get some more next time I'm
Yeah,
back out at the
yeah.
winery, and like, oh,
Yeah.
nope, I missed it. I better hope I can get lucky at a retail shop in the city. Is this the first one to sell out every year usually?
Actually, no, the sweet pea,
Sweet pea go, yeah.
yeah, sweet pea's good. I'm one of those people. Yeah.
which we're down on the sweet pea. So if you want any,
Okay, I'll bother you about that. Yeah.
I think
I'm sure we'll stop at the taste room.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
just right around the corner. So
And yeah, this is delicious. Really, really, really incredibly long length in this one.
incredible.
Yeah, and a lot of evolution in the way the flavors change as you swallow it and sort of sit there with it in your mouth still.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm loving that the sense of peach flavor is similar between the two.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting too that we felt really good about getting $10 to $12 for our bottle of Dessert Riesling,
which was
unheard
double
of,
bottle.
unheard of at that time. And it did sell out too, and especially back then when most of the people that came to the winery were local Oregonians, and the sweeter wines were much more popular then, back in those days.
I think that's true for every startup wine region in the country.
Yeah.
Maybe not California, I don't know, but everywhere I go now that has like a just starting out wine region, like their sweet wines are far and away the most popular.
Yeah,
Yes, tasting room
and that
definitely. the sweeter
changes, and
wines.
it's changed here too. Much more interest in drier wines.
And I think oh god, this just keeps echoing. But
Well, it's like it starts off sweet and very easy, and sort of transitions into tart flavors, and then transitions back into like mellow, just peachy. It goes a lot of places. This is a really fantastic dessert wine. Yeah.
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 Dan's at a loss for words. So
No,
yeah.
I'm just really really enjoying this, but got to keep talking. I guess that's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
not here to just drink quietly on camera.
Well, I should
Well, it
try
shows
to do. Yeah.
It shows the
word salute,
versatility,
yeah.
the versatility of
Mike
Riesling that shows here.
It does. It does.
When you can make a wine like this, and make a wine with a little bit of sweetness in it, versus a dry wine.
That's one thing I just love about Brooks. They really explore that versatility of Riesling, and if you're splitting it up into all of these different wines, that you got to have a vision in mind. You're putting a lot of care into expressing a certain quality of the grape at a certain point in time, and I think that's where really great stuff comes from, right? It's that combination, of great fruit and skill and really like focused intent on putting something wonderful together, and it's great to see it happening. As we kind of wind things down, again, we got kind of this great opportunity having, both a father and a daughter with a lot of experience in wine. I wonder if Heather, if you've got a question you'd like to ask Don about his experience with wine over the years, or anything that a story you'd like to get on camera, or if not, that's fine too. Just like, what do you like to talk about together?
When you sold the winery, why didn't you pressure us girls? I have two sisters too. So why didn't you pressure us to maybe continue at that time in our life? 'Cause we were
my vision was 3 daughters, one a winemaker, one a viticulturalist growing grapes, and the other one marketing wine.
That's a good team. That's a perfect team.
That was
Yeah.
perfect, right?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't progress in that pattern. Maybe I worked them too much in the vineyard early on, but we allowed them to take their own path and not usher them into any kind of future that they didn't want. And so, and it's fortunate for me that Heather has found a home here in wine.
because of Jimmy and Janie Brooks.
Yeah.
I mean, really,
That was your, really.
I mean, we were going to build a house up here anyway, and so, but just the whole Brooks being here, and Janie and I she's like a sister to me now. So
Awesome.
that's, but Jimmy brought us all together. So
Right.
I love it.
The work you do here is great because the excitement that you genuinely have about this place is contagious.
Yes.
So every time I come here and I hang out with you, I love this place even more. So yeah,
Yeah. She made the
you're
connection
doing
with
good
us
work.
years
You're
ago.
doing great work. Yeah.
Thanks.
I don't know if I don't know if any of you still watch, but that were watching us during that first year. But Heather got in touch with us and invited us out to taste.
Rough
and-
first year.
But is definitely one of the best hosts in the Willamette Valley. Like always makes tasting room a pleasure to visit. Does great things with the club. So it's been great to be in touch through these years. And I was wondering,
so
Don,
thank you.
if you had a question for Heather about her experience with Brooks
her
over the decades.
great.
Yeah.
Why didn't she listen to me earlier in life?
Well, you got the marketer at least, right?
Well, I guess it's better that we both came together on our own terms, and
Yeah.
she's taken on this role that I would have never anticipated her to do. Her biggest, she talks to people all the time and in crowds and at the tasting room, and I can remember her first public statement was pizza number 34 ready.
And I was dying. I was really, really shy growing up. So
Really?
that was really
Oh,
hard
wow.
for me. Yeah.
Wow.
Very
She's
shy.
come a long way from that time.
Yeah,
in life.
that's fantastic.
That is fantastic. Yeah.
And if you could jump in a time machine and go back to 1980 and speak to a little room full of Oregon winemakers at the time, what's one piece of advice you would give to those guys?
Rad question.
Yeah.
Wow. 1980.
Yeah.
Wow. Dream your dreams. We had, in the early days, we had a lot of people, not a lot, we had a few people that were able to think outside the box and think about the future, about what the Oregon industry was going to be like in the future and what we needed to do to get there. But not many were able to accept that. It was pretty much steady as we go through the years. And I would encourage at that time people to think further ahead and what we could be. And we're, right now we're like 10 years behind Napa Valley and everything we do as far as progression of events and prices for grapes and land prices and production and so forth. It's we're 10 years behind, but we're maintaining that pace. But there's lots of other vineyard areas in the U.S. Every state now has a winery. We were just up in Nova Scotia, Canada, and they have a thriving industry up there.
Really? Oh, that's cool.
Based entirely on hybrid grapes.
Sure.
Okay.
And no European wine grapes, just hybrids, which are able to survive the winters. And yet, when you think about it, we're on the 45th parallel, as is Burgundy, and Nova Scotia. Runs
Oh,
runs
all right.
right near Halifax. It's interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either till I got up there.
Cheers.
We're over here, yeah.
It's cool to it's cool to visit those young wine regions, and
I'd like to, for your viewers,
Yeah, do it.
I'd like for them to encourage them to do as much blind tasting as you can.
it's fun.
We
learn a lot.
We started a group before I had the winery, before I had the land, a group in Portland called Bacchus Caucus. And we get together once a month and we would taste
Good
wine.
name.
And we would do it blind. And we'd have 4 whites and 4 reds, and they had 6 couples. And we get together, it's just enough to fit around your dining room table. And we buy 1 bottle of each wine to taste and have some sort of educational experience involved in that. And we learn more about wine during those sessions when you taste without knowing what the wine is. That's when your true taste comes out, and that's how you learn about what you like.
Yes.
And it may not be necessarily what the other person likes.
Or what you even thought you liked.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah. And our whole objective was to taste and to find the best value.
Yeah.
Because price is not necessarily
It really isn't.
determination of quality
No.
or what you like. So you need to do that, and I encourage the viewers to call 6 friends, couples together, or singles, or 12 people.
Build a group.
Yeah.
Build a group, 12 people, and that's about right for 1 bottle of wine to taste.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to go out and buy a whole bunch of wine in order to taste a lot.
Right.
So you share the cost with everybody. And blind tasting means you just put them in a bag, and only one person knows what they are. And if you do it right, you put numbers on the bag, and you have somebody else decide or put the numbers on.
Yep,
You bag
yep,
them up
keep
and
it
tell
mystery,
somebody
yep.
else, and then you don't know.
I've had some great blind tastings.
Because
You've done
once you
some
look at the
already.
Oh, yes.
label,
Yep, we do, yeah.
everybody tastes a lot with their eyes.
And with your
Yes.
ears, right? If somebody talks to you about
Yeah.
the wine for 20 minutes before you taste it,
Yeah.
like it makes a difference.
Yep.
No, isn't
It
that
really
your
does.
question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my question. That's my question for the viewers.
Oh.
Go ahead.
You didn't actually ask the question, so you
Oh,
gotta have.
the question is, how many of you have actually done a blind tasting?
Excellent.
Yeah.
That should be easy for people to respond to. A lot of the people that watch the show are pretty nerdy wine fans or whatever. So it should be easy for you guys to
what's
answer
the
this.
last blind tasting?
Yeah.
If you have, what's the last blind tasting you've done? Because
Yeah.
we will get some responses to the show.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see those.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a group of winemakers that get together for a different event, but every event we have a blind everybody brings a wine and in a bag, and nobody knows what that is, and then we have to try to figure out what variety it is, and then
Yeah.
where it came from, what vineyard it came from, or winery. So it's a lot of fun to do that in that context.
Incredibly humbling sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes.
It definitely keeps you going. Yeah.
I've heard a lot of winemakers criticize their own wine.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, I would just love to see that.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you both
Yep.
so much for coming out to join us today. Heather,
Yeah.
thanks for being, thinking it was worth your time to connect with us early
yeah.
along and staying a friend
yeah.
for these few years. It's been really great being in touch. Don, thanks for taking the time to come by. The vision to start the winery, the tenacity to stick to Riesling through the years,
Yes.
provided great benefits to so many people, and the willingness to go biodynamic on really one of the leading edge of Oregon wineries. Like, it's really provided some fantastic heritage for this site to work with, and it's so exciting to get to taste it and see what's going on today, and to have these conversations that really make every bottle that much more enjoyable.
It's true.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Well, guys,
see you guys
to our
next
viewers, we'll see you guys next time.
time. Cheers.
Bye.